How's it going, guys? It's Diggo from SGN, and the time has finally come for the very first edition of Mortal Monday, the show where we cover everything Mortal Kombat 11 related. And in this very first episode, which is my very first Mortal Kombat video of all time, I'm going to be discussing my expectations for Mortal Kombat 11's roster. Now, MK9 started off with 27 characters. I'm not going to be counting DLC when I give you this list. MK9 had 27 characters available on the roster as soon as the game dropped. Injustice God Among Us had 24. Mortal Kombat X had 24, plus Goro, who was a pre-order / DLC character, so I'm not really going to count him. Injustice 2 had a whopping 28 characters. So in my opinion, NetherRealm are going to try to either at the very least match Injustice 2 or go past it, because when it comes to roster, they pretty much did everything perfectly with Injustice 2's initial roster. I mean, from fan favorites to people that we didn't really expect to be in the game, they hit every single nail right in the head and did a fantastic job, not just in actually picking the characters, but in also promoting the characters. So I expect them to try to do something very similar. And the average characters initially are 25.75 between MK9, Injustice, MKX, and Injustice 2. So I think that 28 to 30 characters is very, very reasonable. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the characters I think are going to be in the game. Not necessarily the characters I want to be in the game, but the characters I expect to be in there. And I've divided them into various categories, starting off with guaranteed, then there's very likely, then there's likely, there are new characters, wildcards, and the pre-order character. Starting off with the guaranteed characters, there's 5 of them, and we all know who it's going to be. It's going to be Scorpion, because he is the poster boy of the franchise. He's literally the logo. He is Ed Boon's favorite character of all time, and he's just pretty much loved by every single person who has ever played Mortal Kombat. Sub-Zero is pretty much on the same level as Scorpion. He is also on all the posters. He is also, always fighting Scorpion on almost all of the trailers and stuff like that. He is as popular as it gets in terms of fighting game franchises. Liu Kang, he has always been a major mainstay in the Mortal Kombat franchise. They killed him off in Deadly Alliance and brought him back immediately in Deception. So you know for a fact he's going to be in there, especially because he's probably going to have a very, very big role in this next game. Him and Kitana, who is also on this guaranteed list, they're going to have probably, I'm not going to say a boss level role, but they might be sub-bosses, sort of like a Deadly Alliance type of thing. I don't think it's going to be an actual Deadly Alliance storyline, but since he's the king of the NetherRealm and, she's the queen of the NetherRealm, I think they're going to do something around that, and we'll see exactly in how much of a big role that is. But for a damn fact, those 2 characters will be in the game. Also going to be in the game, guaranteed, is Raiden. You can't do a Mortal Kombat game nowadays without Raiden. They've been promoting him constantly. He was just DLC in Injustice 2. So for a fact, he's going to be a very, very important character in this, not just because of his story, but also because of the gameplay elements. There's nobody who really plays like him, and there's so much that they can still do with the guy. People are actually been talking about how this might be his last game, because they're sort of going on this as if this is a trilogy, and I don't know if it is going to be a trilogy. And I definitely don't think it will be his last Mortal Kombat game ever, but they might kill him off because it looks like he might be the main bad guy or a sub-boss, because apparently he might be trying to go into Outworld and conquer it. He's been turning back into Black Raiden, so we'll see, or Dark Raiden, excuse me, seeing what exactly they're going to be doing with that. Now, moving on to the very likely characters, starting off with what everybody has been asking for, and the character that all the polls have been proving is what everybody wants to see, is Noob Saibot. Ever since he was pretty much, shown to be excluded from MKX because he died in the Solnado, but, there's plenty of ways that they can bring him back, because this is Mortal Kombat. Nobody is really ever dead in Mortal Kombat unless, you're a character that nobody seems to like. So Noob Saibot, who is actually named after 2 of the main developers, Ed Boon and John Tobias, for a fact he's going to be coming back very, very soon. And he has a lot of potential of possibly being either a very important bad guy to the series, because Bo Rai Cho said he needs to remain hidden. He needs to remain hidden. That was what he said in his ending. So in MKX. So it's very likely he'll either be a bad guy, or maybe something that other people have been saying, he might come back as the champion of the Elder Gods, much like Scorpion did when he survived the Solnado. So we'll see what happens there. Also, almost guaranteed to be on there is Jade, because Jade has been teased in the last couple of games. This stream lady who can apparently, see what's going on in various timelines and possibly even alter various universes. She's probably going to have a pretty major role in this, and that means that Jade probably will be coming back. And to be honest, there's quite a lot of fans of Jade. I'm not a huge fan of Jade, I used to hate how she tortured me badly in Ultimate MK3. So I'm not super excited about Jade herself, but I will be excited to see what she does as a character, as a storyline, because I'm not a big fan of her moveset, but if they do something cool with her and have a pretty interesting story for her, then I will definitely be willing to use her. Next up, we have Cassie Cage, because let's just face it, man, after she beats Shinnok, you can't sort of just cut her from the game. I'm not a major fan. I think that of all the new characters, apart from maybe Aaron Black, she's probably the coolest one, just because she has the most personality, and I'm a huge Johnny Cage fan, so the fact that she took a lot of his, personality traits and a lot of his moves, it makes sense that she's going to be replacing him in the roster, and she is kind of an entertaining. I like the way she used to, pop the bubble gum on her opponent's head after she did the fatality, and the fact that she would just pop the bubble at the character select screen. So she does have a lot of personality. She is interesting, and they could really develop her into something good. We'll just have to see what exactly they do with her. I just hope that they don't give her too many traits from Sonya, because nobody likes Sonya. I mean, absolutely nobody likes Sonya. So if they can make her as different as possible from Sonya, I think that's only a good thing. Next up, we have Aaron Black, who, like I said, is very, very well loved by the fans. I may not have actually said that, but he is very well loved by the fans. His look is pretty damn cool. We haven't really seen a cowboy outlaw type of dude in Mortal Kombat before him, so he has his own sort of niche, and his moveset is actually really, really interesting. He's a pistolero. He's got really, really good gun moves. He's also pretty good with his couch drop, so he is good at setting traps as well. So he has plenty of moves and plenty of potential. I just hope that they give him a bigger role in the story, because he was kind of just a henchman. He was sort of like Kodokan's Baraka in this game, so I hope that in MK11, they make him a bit more relevant, a bit more powerful, and a bit more important to the story. Next up, we have Kodokan, who was one of the main bad guys in MKX, and I know there's Catulo, and I expect him to come back and have a major role in it, because, let's just face it, Raiden's ending sort of teased it. There's probably going to be an invasion of Outworld by Raiden, so I would expect to see Kodokan taking on Raiden in a pretty big setting, if not actually as a playable portion of the story, maybe as setting it up, because we pretty much already know how that ends. We already know that Kodokan defeats Raiden, so we'll see what happens there. I mean, we'll see if they maybe alter it a little bit, because endings are never 100% true. They're never 100% canon, but we'll see what they go ahead and try to do there. Next up, and this is the final character on the very likely list, it is Shang Tsung. Everybody's been wanting to see him back. Quan Chi is gone, so there's an opening for a major sorcerer, and who better than Shang Tsung, who has been awesome all throughout the series. Even in the movie, he was fucking amazing. So Shang Tsung, you just can't really go wrong with the guy, and after having him off for a game, I think it's time to bring him back and see what we can do. There's plenty of ways to bring him back. I'll go more into detail about it in a future video, but whether they bring him back with Sindel, whether they bring him back from having a copy of him in the flesh pits, and maybe having Sindel give him his soul back, well, there's plenty of things they can do with that, but we will definitely see, and I definitely expect him to be coming back. Now, moving on to the likely category, we have characters that, in my opinion, aren't necessarily vital to the story, but are also there's some that are kind of important to the story, and I would definitely expect them to come back. But there are others that are sort of just there because their play style is very unique, and they have a lot of fans. So going into it, we have Fujin. Fujin is a guy who is very, very sorely missed in MKX, because in my opinion, and just about every other fan of the series, they say the same thing. MKX needed Fujin because Raiden is sort of losing respect of his peers, and he's sort of just going down off the deep end. So they needed somebody who could, take his place and sort of represent the sane side of the gods of Earthrealm, and Fujin represents that. He's the guy that in the old timeline replaced Raiden when Raiden became an Elder God, so I think that it's natural for Fujin to replace him in this one as well, because Raiden is simply he's going insane, and Fujin can definitely be the guy to take his spot as the protector of Earthrealm, and he really should, because his moveset is also very unique. He's a cool character, his story is very cool, so they need to bring him back. Will they? Everybody expected them to in MKX, so it's not guaranteed. This is why he's on the likely list and not on the very likely list. But I would expect them to have seen how many people were complaining that he wasn't in the game and bring him back. Next up, we have Bo Raicho, who was DLC, so he's probably not going to be DLC in this game. I think he's going to be on the main roster because he is a kind of guy who has a pretty major role with a lot of the Shaolin characters, and he's going to have a pretty big role, in my opinion, if they do show the invasion of Outworld by Earthrealm, because he's, obviously he's always been a guy who helps Earthrealm fighters and Outworld fighters in the fight against Shao Kahn and against the evil characters. But I think that if Outworld gets invaded, he will most certainly be participating, even if it's against Raiden, who is one of his old friends. So I look forward to seeing what they do with Bo' Rai Cho. I liked what they did with him in MKX, and I think that if they can bring him over and improve him even more, then that will be very, very good. Next up, we have Frost. Frost is a character who I was actually pretty damn surprised to not see in MKX, because they introduced so many kids, whether it was Cassie Cage, Jackie Briggs, who sucked, Takeda, Kung Jin. Who else was there? They had, I can't think of anyone else right now. Devora, who wasn't related. But anyway, they had like 4 or 5 people that were kids of other characters from the MK roster. And I was like, all right, Frost isn't Sub-Zero's child or anything like that, but it's a great time to bring her back, because she would fit in as sort of like a new character, a newish character at least, and she fits as the new generation. But for some reason they didn't, and I think that was kind of a miss. But they can definitely do some big things. And if you play Sub-Zero on Injustice 2, there are some moves that are traditionally Frost moves from Deadly Alliance and Deception and Armageddon, of course. So there's definitely some promising aspects there, and it looks like they may have been testing some of her moves. So I think that she will definitely be in there, and we'll see what they do with her, because I think there's plenty of potential with Frost. Next up, we have Kenshi. Kenshi is another one of those characters that has been borderline useless, but also has a lot of fans, because he's a very cool looking character. He's got a lot of really cool moves, and there's so much you can do with him. I think he's been sort of undervalued and underused by NetherRealm Studios. I wouldn't mind him taking a game off, but with the introduction of Takeda and the fact that they're going to try to get revenge on the people who killed Takeda's mother and all that, I think that it's very likely that both characters will be in the game. So Kenshi and Takeda will both be in there. And Takeda, in my opinion, is actually probably the most interesting new character they added in MKX, because of at least on the good side, because of the relationship he has with Hanzo Hazashi, which is Scorpion, and the fact that his moveset is actually very unique as well. We haven't really seen somebody use, the battle ropes or battle chains, I guess is what they are, as he does, and that's really, really interesting. And I look forward to seeing if they can develop him into a bit more of a power character, in the sense that somebody who is really, really effective. At least for me, I didn't really use him a whole lot because I wasn't able to really grasp his play style, but the potential is there in all aspects with his gameplay and storyline, and I hope to see him come back and do something really, really interesting. Next up, we have Li Mei, who made a cameo in Mortal Kombat X's story mode, and I definitely expect her to come back. She's a character that has a lot of fans, which is actually weird, because in Deadly Alliance and Deception, she wasn't particularly cool looking, she wasn't particularly interesting, but she is sort of garnering herself a following and is really getting herself to be a character that a lot of people want to see come back, and I expect her to come back. Next up, we have Devora, who killed Melina, so she definitely has herself a bit of a prominent role there. She is kind of like a henchman, because she is just Kodo Khan's main bodyguard alongside Aaron Black. But I think there's a bit more to her than that. They definitely have some potential. I'm not a really big fan of her. I'm not a big fan of Bugs, and the whole, her moveset in general isn't really that cool to me. But I think that they can do some improvement on her and possibly make her something that would interest me. I'm not really looking forward to her, but I definitely think she will be in there. Another guy who I like, but I'm not crazily fond of, is Jax. Jax is one of those guys who has a lot of personality, and he's a classic Mortal Kombat character, but he's been in so many games in a row now without really having any major relevance. Like in MKX, he was the only character, apart from maybe Sub-Zero, who was able to get away from being a Revenant, and that was obviously major, because it showed that it was very difficult to get him out of being a Revenant, and it sort of changed his perspective on everything that's going down between Outworld and Earthrealm and the Netherrealm and all that stuff. So it's really interesting what they did with him, and his playstyle is 100% unique. You don't see any grapplers like him, and there are a lot of people that use him in tournaments and stuff like that, because he is very efficient. He is very cool, the way you can use him in ways that other characters simply cannot be used. So I expect him to be coming back simply from a gameplay perspective and a tournament perspective. Next up, another guy who is only going to be there based on the fact that he's very unique as a character. It's Ermac, a guy who doesn't really have a major role in the storyline. It's like every time he pops up, he just gets his ass beat. So I'm kind of wondering what the hell they're doing there with Ermac, but there's no doubt that his moveset is really, really cool, and he always looks really badass. So I expect him to be back, especially because there's been rumors about Shao Kahn coming back as a guest, not as a guest character, but as a pre-order character, and he might have a role in the story. So I expect him, because of the fact that Shao Kahn is a soul that is contained within Ermac's body, to be coming back. And also with Shang Tsung, there's plenty to work with there. So I definitely expect Ermac to be coming back. Next up is Cyrax. We need somebody from the Cyborg Initiative to be coming back, and Cyrax is the perfect guy because he was against it, and there's plenty they can do in terms of him and, going against that, and maybe bringing in Sector as well. I don't think Sector's going to be there, but having a guy like Cyrax who they can possibly bring back as a human as well would be very, very interesting. I would like to see him stay as a cyborg and see what they do with the story there, because he's a very interesting character from a gameplay point of view, and I've always liked this story. I think they kind of misused him in MK9. They sort of got rid of him a bit too fast, but I would have really liked to see what they could do with him, and he's going to be a very, very interesting character if they do put him in this game, because obviously if they put him in as Triborg, and let's just be real now, Cyrax was the main variation of Triborg. So I expect him to definitely be coming back. That was sort of like a trial, in my opinion, for what they're going to be doing in MK11. And Ed Boon is notorious for not wanting to bring back, not wanting to repeat the same DLC over and over again. So I think that Triborg was there to test what they could do for cyborgs in future games. Cyrax was the most used, which means Cyrax is the guy they need to put in there, and Cyrax will probably be in the game. We already mentioned Takeda, who's next on my list. Let's move on to Reptile. Reptile is a classic from MK1. He was a secret character, and everybody loves him. Unfortunately, he has been reduced to just a henchman. This a common theme with a lot of these characters. Once you're on the bad side of things, whether you're a villain or you're sort of like a neutral guy who's just sort of there, you tend to just get your ass beat in story mode. And that, as cool as you look and as cool of a story you might have, like a backstory, if you're just getting your ass beat on a regular basis in story mode, you kind of become a bum. And that's unfortunately what's been going on with Reptile. He's a really fun character to use as long as you know how to use him. He's very unique. He's got really, really interesting moves, and he's got really cool fatalities as well. It's just a matter of how many times can he get his ass beat in story mode? How many times can he be a henchman? We'll see. We'll see if that continues to be the case in this game, or maybe if they decide to bring back Onaga and Reptile becomes, the body of Onaga. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Now, next up, another guy who is in a similar situation to Reptile, in my opinion, is Kung Lao. Now, Kung Lao, he doesn't get his ass beat all the time, but he's just sort of been there. As a character in MKX, he wasn't really prominent. He's a Revenant, but he's like the only Revenant who sort of seems to have a conscience still, and he's been trying to get rid of his Revenant being by like meditating, going off on his own, and doing things like that. It's just, I don't know how much they can really do with that, and I would like to see Kung Lao take a day off. Listen, alright, Kung Lao is one of my favorite characters. I love his moveset, I love his fatalities, all that stuff is really, really awesome. But it gets to a point where a character just kind of becomes redundant, and he just seems to be like a random guy that's just sort of there. So I don't want him to be that, and I want to see him take a game off, but I expect him to be there because, let's just face it, he's a fan favorite, he has awesome moves, and he's very prominent in the tournament scene. Now we're going to be going into the new characters. If you look at Mortal Kombat's past, they traditionally introduce quite a few new characters per game, and I'm going to be going with 3 to 4 characters in this one because my roster is from 28 to 30, and I've already given you about 23 to 24 characters. So 3 to 4 new characters, in my opinion, makes perfect sense, including the Dream Lady, the lady that's been teased in 2 games now, and who is very much related to Jade, and we'll see what happens because Jade has apparently been, this Dream Lady has taken over Jade's body, so we'll see if they're one unique character, if maybe it's like they have 2 variations, which one is Jade and one is the Dream Lady. We'll see what happens there, but I'm going to go ahead and list the Dream Lady as a new character because I think that it would be kind of a miss if they just made her a variation of Jade, because this Dream Lady has been teased twice, so they need to give her her own character, her own look, her own variations, and give her a prominent role in the storyline. Maybe make her somebody who's either a boss or a sub-boss or somebody who has a major impact on what actually goes down in the story. Next up, we have characters that, in my opinion, are wild cards. In other words, if they go for 30 characters instead of 28, these are the characters, in my opinion, that are the main favorites to get in there, and they are Havoc and Hotaru. Havoc is, in my opinion, the best 3D era character. There is simply nobody who has as much potential as that guy does. Somebody who brings in chaos. Somebody who is a very neutral character, much like Scorpion in the early games, who unfortunately in the Mortal Kombat X comic, they made him a villain. And that's a shame, because he's one of those guys who goes out there and he just wreaks havoc. He doesn't give a shit who's doing what for any side of the game. He doesn't really care if you're a good guy, you're a bad guy. He doesn't care if you're from Earth Realm, the Nether Realm, Outworld, the Chaos Realm, the Order Realm. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. All he wants to do is wreak havoc, which is why his name is Havoc. And he's a great character. He definitely has earned himself the chance to come back. He's really, really cool, and his look is just badass as well. So I would love to see him back alongside Hotaru, who is another guy that I don't think gets enough credit for what he can really bring to the table, especially alongside Havoc. There's a lot of people that have been calling for maybe having a game based all around the Order Realm and the Chaos Realm, maybe have something a la Shaolin Monks, or maybe have the game MK11 itself be built around the Order Realm and the Chaos Realm, because we haven't really explored that very much. You know, we don't really know what they look like apart from what we saw in Deception's Conquest mode. So we can definitely see some really, really good things in the future as long as NetherRealm has the balls to really explore that and go back to something that maybe a lot of people will look to as fondly because, you know, the 3D era wasn't exactly very loved for very obvious reasons. But I think that they definitely have the opportunity with Hotaru and Havoc to go back to that, exploit the good things that they did do with that era, and really make some really, really cool changes to the lore, to their lore, and make them some badass characters. And the last person on the wildcard list is Serena, a character that everybody has been wanting to see for so damn long. Ever since her presence in Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero Mythologies, you know, everybody has been just wanting to see this chick come back. A lot of people think she's hot and all that stuff because she's gothic. Gothic chicks aren't really my cup of tea. But regardless, I think there's plenty of potential as a love interest for Sub-Zero. You know, all these people are getting married in the series. Why not give the one person who, apart from Johnny Cage and Sonya, that we have actually seen have a love, you know, have a romantic sort of side overall in the series throughout the years, and have Sub-Zero and Serena have somewhat of a romantic interest in this game? I don't know. Like, I don't even care if they have a romantic interest. Maybe just make them sort of like they have a crush on each other, but in a weird way. I don't mean like a teenage type of crush. I mean like, you know, just some weird type of thing. Like maybe she's working for the bad. Well, no, she was in MKX. She was in MKX working as, you know, sort of giving intel on what the NetherRealm is doing. So she clearly is a good character, at least pro-good character. Maybe not necessarily a good character herself, but pro-good. So I would definitely think that the potential is there. Why not put her in there? All the people have been asking for her for so damn long. She was in MK Armageddon, but everybody was in Armageddon, so you can't really count that. It's time for her to get her presence in an actual game, bring her in, and see what she can do, and see how many people play her. Now, going down to the final character on this list, it is the pre-order character, and for me, there are really three options. There's Kintaro, Shao Kahn, and there's Onaga. When it comes to those three characters, I think that the two most likely are definitely Shao Kahn and Onaga. I personally would love to see Kintaro being a playable boss, because we saw it with Goro, but I don't think they're going to go back to another Shokan, because like I said, Ed Boon doesn't love to do the same thing over and over again, so I don't think we're going to see a Shokan, but I do think we will see a boss character coming back as a playable character who's going to be DLC related, which means Shao Kahn or Onaga. Honestly, you know, Shao Kahn has already been killed in the game, so I don't think he's going to come back as a main boss in any of the future games. Whereas Onaga, he still has that potential. He still is going to be a very, very likely candidate for either MK11 itself or a future game after that as a main boss, or at the very least, a very important character as a villain in one of the future games. So I don't think they're going to waste Onaga as a DLC character, but Shao Kahn is my pick as that pre-order bonus, and I would actually really like to see that, because there's plenty they can do with the bruiser aspect nowadays. We've seen what they did with Darkseid, who was a bruiser. You know, he's one of the most powerful characters in all of DC Comics, if not the most powerful character. So for them to do what they did with Darkseid in Injustice 2, I think that was sort of like a test for what they could do with Shao Kahn. Bring him in there, have him be badass, have him be a bruiser, not be too overpowered, but definitely be somebody very, very different to use from everybody else, especially because Ferritor is almost guaranteed to not be in the game, even though Ed Boon does love Ferritor for some reason. But, you know, I definitely think that the bruiser character is available, and Shao Kahn can definitely fill that role. So that is it for my list. What do you think of my predictions? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, let me know which characters you want to see in there. I'll be doing that video probably next week for Mortal Monday if I don't decide to vary it a little bit. And one thing I want to mention, I'm going to be doing some Fatal Fridays as well because, and this is going to be more or less not just like MK11 related. It's going to be my Mortal Kombat preferences, my Mortal Kombat history related. So it's not necessarily about MK11. It's going to be about Mortal Kombat in general. So I hope you guys check that out. It'll probably be this Friday. It's not going to be a weekly thing like Mortal Monday is. It's going to be, you know, whenever I feel like doing it, whenever I feel really inspired to do it, I will be doing that. But I think that for the next few weeks, you will definitely be seeing some Fatal Fridays as well. So definitely check that out. If you enjoyed the video, please smash that like button and let me know in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell if you want to get notifications every time I put out a video. Shout out to all the people that have been subscribing lately. Thank you very much, and thank you so much for the comments as well. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.